Evening.
Oh, good evening.
Good evening. I'm dressed like a migraine today, apparently. Poorly by accident. What is there to say about A Good Man Goes to War? Let us begin with the single greatest cold open in Doctor Who history. And there's just no question about it. It plays that game that we've already played a couple of times, where is Amy talking about the Doctor? No, she's talking about Rory. And the thing about this is, it's not that the whole, don't you get involved now, dog, pain in the bum. It's not that the whole Rory thing pays off. We've got loads more of Rory to go, but there is something about this that just is one of the apexes of his character, the crescendos of Rory, because that cold open, dressed as Rory the Roman, and we forget he's been a centurion for thousands of years, and obviously that gets buried away. But that moment where he says, I've got a message from the Doctor and a question from me, where is my wife? It's just unbelievable. And then the Cybermen. It's nice to see Simon, by the way, and used very well here. I mean, I think you know my feelings about the Cybermen. But just an absolutely sublime moment and a payoff for all the Rory investment we've had. Fantastic. Then we've got Amy and Karen Gillan being asked to do something very, very tough in terms of acting. I think she pulls it off beautifully. That moment where she says, can I borrow your gun? Why? Because I think you might carry on talking. It's just absolutely brilliant. And then we've got what is just an absolute flipping tour de force of Doctor Who, of Stephen Moffat's Doctor Who specifically. We get so many seeds sown here that are going to be paid off later. We get so many harvests of seeds that have already been planted. It is utterly phenomenal that Moffat manages to pull all this together, because it's a very odd story. It doesn't work like a Doctor Who story normally works, and yet it does work perfectly. The callbacks to previous episodes are absolutely brilliant. The new characters he throws in, who secretly, we know, are going to be awesome. Sorry, breaking the rules. And we can talk about those in a later date, because, let's be honest, there's so much to talk about here. But can I just say, the introduction of Vastra, Jenny and Strax. And Strax, oh my God, he's so funny. He's so funny. Oh, what a bunch. Unbelievable. Then, of course, we get Matt Smith, who I think is exploring this character in ways that we've not seen him do before. That moment where he gets petty and nasty. What does he say? Sergeant Colonel Runaway. And he says, I'm angry, that's new. There are moments where you just go, oh, this is getting a bit close to the edge. Shades of Tennant, and Tennant toward the end of Tennant's run. But essentially, this is just an absolutely sublime, brilliant episode of Doctor Who, and there's no point in taking it apart, because it's just too good. So I want to talk about a couple of broader points, and the first one is the moment in this episode that I have problems with. Now, I'll level with you. I didn't have anywhere as many near problems watching it this time as I had in previous times, and I think it's because I've reconciled myself to it. And it is the moment where Amy's baby turns to goo. Now, it's nothing to do with the visual. It's not like the Rebel Flesh, the Almost People. It's grim, but only grim in a Doctor Who way. It's absolutely fine. It's just that conceptually, this is hard. I would go so far to say this is as hard as the show has ever been. Now, and this is a really weird comparison to make, the only time in the past that, had it been done right, might have had the same impact, it's going to come from left field, is the death of Adric. Because Adric was supposed to be this, 13-year-old precocious, artful, dodger genius type. And therefore, theoretically, when he died, it's the death of a child. But it didn't feel like that, did it? It felt just like, oh, screw it, it's Adric, great. Yay! But this feels very, very different. Now, this has a particular resonance for myself and Elizabeth, and indeed my beautiful Doctor Who friends John and Paul, because when this episode was on, when we were starting to build our families. John had got, I think, 2 of his babies by then. I think 2. And then Paul was maybe just on the way to having his... I can't remember. But the point is, parenthood was in the air. And
no, Paul must already have had Joshua, because Joshua, Bella and Winnie are all the same age.
there we go then. So we'd all had...
And Winnie was 1.
Yeah, and yeah. So the thought of your child just disappearing in this episode has always hit me super, super duper hard. Now, I'll be honest with you, in this episode this time, it hit, don't get me wrong, and poor Winnie was, she was in bits, but it didn't hit in a distasteful way for me, which is what it felt like the first time. So I'm reckoning that I fell back on when I was pottering about earlier, the old phrase that I've always loved about Doctor Who, which is it's clever enough for the children and dumb enough for the parents. And that is brilliant for Doctor Who. So I'm wondering, is it that? Because if my current fixation about this being a family TV programme, is this an example of the sort of only thing you can really truly feel when you've been a parent? That sounds insulting, and I do apologise if anybody who's watching this would disagree with me in that, but I don't think that I would have had the response that I had when this was first on the telly 2 years before, because I wasn't a dad then. So it might just be my ignorance. I do apologise if you disagree fundamentally with that. I do think, though, that the show set itself up for a bit of a fall here. There is no way of resolving this now in a way that, as a parent, I would find in any way satisfactory. As in, if I was Rory and Lib was Amy, then there's no way that this can work out for them. Now, we know that.
It would be the other way around. You'd be Amy, I'd be Rory.
Okay.
I'm cool.
But there's no way this can sort itself out now. We know the path that their child's going to take. And any Doctor Who fan worth the salt now knows that this is the path that their child's going to take. They are not going to get, at least this time round, the experience of having a baby going into being a toddler. That's just not going to happen. So that's a problem the show is going to have to deal with over the next few episodes. And indeed, really, throughout the whole of Amy and Rory's time. Anyway, we should move on. Because let's talk about the baby itself. We finally found out, and I'd forgotten actually that this was the episode where this dropped. I'd completely forgotten that this is where we find out who River is. And the perspective of the parents aside, it is as satisfying a resolution. Not a resolution, but the answer to the question that's been banging around since Silence of the Library. It is as satisfying as you could possibly imagine. Are you satisfied with it?
Am I satisfied? Well, we can't... Oh, we know now, don't we?
We know that she's Amy and Rory's child. Are we happy with that?
But we know who she is as well.
She's Amy and Rory's child?
River Song.
Yes.
Yeah, just to be explicit.
Yes.
Am I happy with that? I don't know.
Does it bother you?
I think it makes it a bit weird that, like, because the love affair between River and
The Doctor.
Well,
there is...
Yeah, it's like Antony and Cleopatra. It's one of those... It's a
tale written across the stars, yeah.
Exactly. Then to think of River as a baby is a bit weird, and to think of them being related. Like, I mean, I don't love Amy.
Oh, you used to love Amy.
I've never loved Amy.
She used to love Amy. Okay. I can see that point. And there is something a bit weird about the Doctor holding the baby that will later be his wife, presumably. We don't know that yet, but it feels that way, doesn't it? But I think, for me, at least, it works. For me, it works. I love it. And also, there's little moments like when she and the Doctor, when the Doctor knows and she knows and nobody else does, I think there's a moment there. And also, the other thing that resonated with me is the moment where she sees Rory at the start, before she even knows it's Demon's Run, and she sees Rory, and she's doing the River Song thing, being all cool and, knowing and this, that and the other. But there's just a moment where I think that she knows it's her dad. And I think that's absolutely charming. And that made me super duper happy watching it through this time. The final thing I want to talk about ever so briefly is this, because this is on my mind, and also this is very much thematically part of the episode, and it's this. How far has this character of the Doctor come? Not Matt Smith, but the Doctor. Because it's in this episode where very, very, very explicitly we get one of the essential tensions of the show being brought to the fore in a beautifully Moffatian way. I mean, my gosh. But where the name, the Doctor, which we know as a healer and an educator.
Teacher.
A teacher, my apologies. What's the difference between a teacher and an educator then?
I said not necessarily a healer.
Didn't I thought I said a healer and an educator.
You did, but doctor comes from teacher.
But in common parlance.
All right.
Bloody hell.
Keep one's knickers on.
And the fact that this character has spent however many hundreds of years at this point, 200-300 years of the life of this character, going round, saving the day of the good guys, but bad guys don't think they're bad guys, do they? Bad guys think they're good guys. That's otherwise the stories don't work. So I really like the fact that this story's taking it head on. And the fact that we've got this Doctor now who, for at least this, well, certainly the last version of himself and this version of himself is toys with godhood, basically. We've now reached the stage where this Doctor, let's just talk explicitly about this Doctor, is so confident in their own abilities that he can stand in Stonehenge and yell at his legions of his greatest foes that they best just back off because I'm here. And the Atraxi just runs away. And he's getting very, very big for his boots. And that essential tension of the character, that this character isn't supposed to be somebody who picks up a gun, does have a great tendency in getting other people to pick up guns. And it's really interesting how this story, I mean, there's so much going on in this story, how this story is able to play with, has got all these different things in play, and yet it's a very coherent, very entertaining, very brilliant story that does forward the character of the Doctor beautifully. What a fantastic piece of television. I mean, the baby goo bit aside, I've always thought this is a great episode of Doctor Who. But today, this is top rank. Lib?
Mm-hmm.
Top rank?
Yes, I would say so.
Yeah. And obviously, in the previous timeline, we then had a sort of mid-season break here. What a way to set us up. What a brilliant way. And then you see that the next episode is called Let's Kill Hitler, and you go, oh, right, okay. There is no doubt at all that Doctor Who is the greatest TV programme of all time. And I have to say, Good Man Goes to War is in its upper echelons of greatest episodes ever. There you go. Bosh. Farewell.
Bosh.